I'm 60 years old, and I've learned that peace is expensive. It doesn't come easy. And more often than not, it costs relationships, friends, family, familiar routines. At this age, I avoid people, not because I hate them, but because I finally understand myself. When you're young, you're surrounded by noise, expectations, obligations, identities you're trying to live up to. You're building, chasing, fixing, performing. But somewhere along the road, you realize most of that was distraction. A beautiful distraction maybe, but still a mask. At 60, the masks get heavy. You stop wanting to wear them. You crave stillness, not applause, depth, not drama. You want truth over excitement and consistency over chaos. I avoid people now because I value my time differently. When you're young, you think time is abundant. You waste it on arguments, gossip, proving points. You sit at tables where you're not respected, giving second chances to people who only showed you their first red flag. But not anymore. At this stage of life, time is sacred. If I give you an hour of my day, that's not just an hour. That's a piece of the only currency I have left. And I've learned to spend it wisely. I don't chase people anymore. I don't try to convince them of my worth. I used to. I used to shrink myself to fit into someone else's idea of enough. I used to stay in conversations that drained me just to avoid being rude. But I've lived long enough to realize energy is a limited resource, and peace is precious. If it costs my peace, it's too expensive, no matter who you are. I avoid people now because some people only know how to take. You learn that some relationships were never about love. They were about control, convenience, or competition. And when you stop feeding their need to be superior, they disappear. And let me tell you something, that disappearance, that's a blessing in disguise, because the older you get, the more allergic you become to manipulation. People ask me if I'm lonely, but what they don't understand is this. Solitude and loneliness are not the same thing. Loneliness is craving connection and not having it. Solitude is choosing to be with yourself and finding it peaceful. I don't avoid people because I'm bitter. I avoid them because I'm finally content with my own company. You reach a point where you stop needing external validation. You stop asking, am I doing the right thing? And instead ask, does this feel right to me? That shift changes everything. I don't need loud friendships or frequent check-ins to feel loved. I don't need everyone to like me. I just need to be at peace when I lay my head on the pillow at night. That's success now. Peace of mind. Stillness in my spirit. You start to recognize patterns. You notice who only calls when they need something, who claps for you when you win, and who gets quiet. You see through the charming masks and the subtle put-downs, and with age comes the courage to walk away without fanfare. You don't slam doors, you just quietly lock them. I avoid people now because not everyone deserves access to my peace. And that's not bitterness, that's boundaries. When you're younger, you think saying no is mean, but eventually you realize saying yes to the wrong things is even crueler to yourself. Some people thrive on conflict. They live in chaos, and if you're not careful, they'll drag you into it. But peace becomes your compass. If a person's energy feels heavy, I trust that feeling now. I don't try to justify it, fix it, or tolerate it. I simply step away, not in anger, but in wisdom. I avoid people now because silence has become more comforting than small talk. I don't need to fill every moment with chatter. Sometimes the best conversations are the ones I have with the wind on my porch or with the pages of a good book. I've come to love the quiet. It tells the truth without noise. You also learn that not all relationships are meant to last a lifetime. Some were seasonal. Some were lessons. Some were mirrors showing you who you no longer want to be. And once you accept that, You stop mourning what ended and start appreciating what it taught you. At 60, I finally understand that presence is more powerful than performance. I'd rather sit in silence with someone who sees me than be surrounded by people who barely know me. I'd rather have one honest friend than 10 convenient ones. I'd rather be alone than poorly accompanied. People think aging is about losing youth, but real aging, graceful aging, is about gaining clarity. It's about filtering out the noise and fine-tuning your life like a melody. It's about knowing what truly matters and letting go of what doesn't, without guilt. I avoid people now because I finally realized that not everyone wants peace. Some people live off of gossip, jealousy, blame. Their energy is chaotic and they want company in their confusion. But I don't join them anymore. I've lived through storms. I don't invite more in. You stop giving explanations. You stop over-explaining your boundaries, your distance, your silence. You just trust that those who truly love you will understand. And those who don't, well, they never really did. I avoid people now because I've learned to listen to my body, my spirit. If something feels off, it probably is. Wisdom teaches you not to wait for 10 signs when your soul already knows. And you stop seeking permission to walk away. You just walk. At this age, my circle is small, but it's real. I choose conversations that nourish, not drain, laughter that's pure, company that's calm. I value those who listen without judging and speak without hurting, and I try to be that person too, because peace isn't just something I seek, it's something I offer. But let me tell you something else. I've learned at 60, something no one prepared me for, how beautifully painful clarity can be. You start seeing things in reverse. Not just where you're going, but where you've been. And the hardest part is realizing how many years you spent giving your best to people who never truly saw you. How many times you silenced your own needs to keep the peace, only to end up in pieces. You look back and think, why did I stay so long in places that didn't value me? And yet, you forgive yourself, because that version of you didn't know better, but this version does. And with that clarity, something powerful happens. You stop needing closure from other people. You stop needing apologies that will never come, or recognition that was always withheld. You just breathe. You let go, you stop bleeding for people who wouldn't have bandaged you. And you begin the long, beautiful process of coming home to yourself. At 60, I understand now that some people only love you when you're useful, when you're convenient, when you fit the mold they built for you. The moment you grow or speak up or stop playing small, their love disappears. And you know what? Let it. Because the love that leaves when you start loving yourself is not love, it's control. So yes, I avoid people now, not to build walls, but to honor my own boundaries. Not to punish them, but to protect my peace. Because not everyone deserves front row access to the soul I've spent 60 years shaping. You know what else changes? The way you measure friendship. When I was younger, I thought good friends were the ones who showed up for the big stuff. Birthdays, weddings, accomplishments. But at 60, I see things differently. A true friend isn't just there for your highs. They sit with you in silence during your lows. They don't always have advice. Sometimes they just stay. And that kind of quiet loyalty, that's rare, that's gold. I avoid people now because I no longer chase connections that drain me. I want real. Not perfect, not popular, just real. Give me people who speak with their eyes, who listen with their hearts, who laugh from the gut. People who don't just ask how you are, but wait for the real answer. People who don't just show up when it's convenient, but when it's needed. Those are the people I make room for. And truthfully, I've made peace with solitude. I've learned that peace often walks alone, not because it's lonely, but because so few are willing to travel that quietly. I don't fill my days with noise anymore. I fill them with meaning, with walks in the early morning light, with coffee that I sip slowly, with conversations that matter, even if they're just with myself. Time looks different now. I don't count the years by birthdays anymore. I count them in moments, sunsets, handwritten notes, songs that bring tears to your eyes. A call from someone who remembers your heart, not just your history. That's the currency of life now, and I won't waste it on people who treat it like spare change. I avoid people now because I no longer pretend. I don't smile when I'm hurting. I don't laugh at jokes that cut too deep. I don't nod along to things that violate my spirit. And maybe that makes me less agreeable, but it makes me free. Authenticity has become my oxygen. Anything fake chokes me. And you know what else I've stopped doing? I've stopped explaining myself. There was a time I'd write paragraphs to justify my decisions. Now I honor my no. I trust my yes. I don't beg for understanding from those committed to misunderstanding me. I don't try to change their minds. I just quietly change my access. One of the greatest awakenings in this age is learning to love yourself without condition. Not when you lose weight, not when you achieve more, not when others finally approve, just as you are. Right now, with your soft belly and your deep laugh lines, your tired heart and your quiet strength. I avoid people now because some people only see your value when you forget your own. But I've remembered. And once you remember, you can't go back to shrinking. Death teaches you too, not in loud ways, but in subtle, sobering reminders. Friends start to leave. People you thought were invincible are gone in an instant, and you realize life is brief, not guaranteed. And suddenly every moment matters more. You begin to ask, if this were my last year, would I really want to spend it people-pleasing, apologizing for my existence, entertaining energy that exhausts me? No, you wouldn't. And so, you stop. At 60, I know that not every goodbye is a loss. Some are liberation, some are grace, and yes, some are painful but necessary. Because you can't rise while clinging to people who anchor you in patterns you've outgrown. You also stop measuring your worth by how many people surround you. It's not about how many come to your party. It's about who shows up when there's nothing to celebrate. It's about whose energy feels like home. And home doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes it's one person. Sometimes it's you. I avoid people now because gossip feels like poison. Jealousy smells like smoke. Competition wears me out. I don't want to compare lives. I want to live mine. I don't want to prove I'm doing well. I want to feel well. Peace is no longer a goal. It's my lifestyle, my filter, my answer. I've stopped rushing too. Everything used to feel urgent. Now, I pause. I breathe. I savor. I no longer apologize for moving at a slower pace. The world runs fast, but that doesn't mean I have to. Wisdom doesn't sprint, it strolls. And that's the rhythm I honor now. There's a freedom in not needing much. You realize how little you actually require to be happy. A warm morning, a clean space, a genuine "how are you?" from someone who means it. A walk without pain, laughter from the soul, peace in your sleep. And yes, I avoid people now. But more importantly, I protect myself now. I honor what I've built. I treasure my heart. I trust my spirit. I respect my story. And if I could tell my younger self anything, it would be this. One day, you'll be grateful you chose yourself. Even if it meant walking alone, because peace is not found in crowds. It's found in clarity, in courage, in choosing yourself without guilt. At 60, I choose quiet over chaos, depth over display, meaning over momentum, and love, real love over performance. So if you see me alone, smiling, lost in thought, know that I'm not lonely. I'm finally home.